So hello and welcome back to another video, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to a number of setups in this video that we're going to be looking at. Now in the background here I've got running a race I took part in last night, a number of races I took part in, a really good night's racing to be honest. A lot of new people come into the game as well, young and old, and a lot of people are really amazed by being able to talk to other people around the world while they're racing. It really is a place where you can reach out, make new friends and just enjoy cars and enjoy racing. So yeah, I had a really good night last night. This is a little bit of the footage from one of the races. A really good race. I forget the name of the guy that was in the lead here, AZ something, I can't quite remember the name, but some very close racing. I think we were fastest laps were within like 8 thousandths of a second between each other, so it was a really close battle all the way through the field. A lot of guys really enjoying some close battles, so I thought I would do something a little bit different with today's video. Usually I'm doing a fast lap and you get to see the lap and me doing the lap. Well, I thought I would share a number of races that I've done over the past, say 2 weeks, just on the odd night. Every now and then I jump on and just do maybe 4 or 5 hours just enjoying some racing in the evening, but just a couple of battles that kind of really stood out, or maybe ones where I've actually pressed the capture record button and started actually capturing some footage. So we'll have a look at some of those, but with each of the videos that we look at, I'll also go through the setup that I'm using in the race. So you're still going to get the setups. I think I've got the Bentley, let me just have a look, the Bentley at Monza and the Nürburgring, and we'll be looking at the car I'm driving a lot of at the moment is the McLaren. We've also got that at Monza, Catalonia, the Nürburgring and Silverstone. So 6 setups all in this one video. Obviously there's going to be a fair bit of footage to watch, because at the end of the day I think as much as you can watch me set the fastest lap, it's the racing that's going to win your races. Now if all you want to do is do fast laps, hopefully on November the 10th when the game gets its next patch, we'll have something in the special events to look forward to. A lot of people still discussing last night that they can't access the setups, and I'm sure watching this other guy go wide in the background, I'm sure there's still people out there not knowing that we've got this issue using you're going to have to swap the controller, press the Y button on the controller to be able to access your setups, and then obviously choose the wheel to actually do the racing. So a number of people may be still missing out on that little trick at the moment to be able to access your setups. Now another thing that seemed to come to light in last night's online chatter was the use of Driver 61's ACC cheat sheet, but this is nothing new. As much as Driver 61 does loads for the racing community, sim racing community, and I forget the name of the guy, but he is very knowledgeable about racing, don't get me wrong. The sheet is definitely probably worth downloading if you've got no idea of the concept of how a car is set up, how the various areas on a car work together. But there are a number of different websites offering very similar things. Haye came out with a brilliant one a number of years ago. All of these I'll link in the description, probably be up on the screen just now as well. I forget the other ones. Paradigm Shift Racing also had a very similar one, really detailed website on how to go about setting up. A lot of this comes down to education and educating yourself on how areas of the car perform and how they work together. Sim Racing Setups is another brilliant web page, especially for Assetto Corsa. They go into so much detail in so many areas. It's probably something I've not read loads on, because invariably over the time that I've spent doing sim racing and just gaming in general, car-based games, whether it's Forza, F1, Assetto Corsa Competizione, I've always enjoyed setting cars up, so understanding how areas of the car work together, if you've got issues with understeer, oversteer, if the car's slow coming out of corners, if you're struggling with grip through certain corners. There's so many areas of the car that it's probably quite daunting for someone new to come into the game and try and understand what is going wrong with the car, or how to get the best from the car. So hopefully in this video we'll be looking at 6 different setups, and we'll also watch some footage from the races that I've taken part in. As you can see, I think we're just finishing the race here. It's such a close battle, really all the way down to the last lap, and I almost really pushing as hard as I could, and ended up out of the circuit in the McLaren there, just coming across the line. A really good race, but so many good races last night. Really was a cracking night, and for all those that aren't able to do league races, there are some brilliant lobbies out there in an evening, especially on Xbox console. Really enjoying the racing. So controller in hand, let's go back and have a look at some of these setups. So I'm just going to fire into each setup, and we'll look at them as we go along. So as you can see, the McLaren setup here at Monza, I'm not going to do any racing in this setup. We're just literally going to look at the setups, and I'm just going to fly through them. And yeah, another glitch. So launching the game with the controller, I'm not sure whether that's an issue, so I'll just fire my wheel up because it's just crashed on the way to launch the game. So that also stops the capture, because as soon as you come back to the main menu on the Xbox, the capture kind of stops. So I'm just going to open the game up as I normally would with my wheel. So that's another issue that we've figured out just there. Opening the game with the controller just seems to crash it. So we'll see if that does the same. So just looking over this Monza setup then, let's load it in. So as you can see at the top of the screen, it's in 1.8.2.2, and we've set a 149.8, and that's on a fast circuit, so hopefully in optimum conditions you're going to be getting a little bit quicker than that, and the temperature was 33 Celsius when I set this lap. So I'm not going to go into too much detail as to what each one of these settings has done. Obviously tyre pressures may need adjusting depending on where you're racing or what the track temperature is for you. Traction control obviously is something that's very individual really. It's how you manage the throttle pedal. Again, the brake is just the same. There's no real data for the tyres, and again the brake balance it's always going to be something that's personal to yourself. If you're coming into a bend and you're oversteering on corner entry, generally you're going to want to increase the brake balance, but for me I think 57.4 was where it was, so that would be what I would be running. Dampers, again, it's just how you feel. We haven't got Motec. And again, you can see at the rear of the car we're running absolutely no rear wing, so expect the rear end to be a little bit twitchy. We've even got the rear end lowered to try and help us add a little bit more stability at the rear. Obviously if you start raising the rear end, the car will become a little bit more darty, and it'll also become a little bit more unstable coming into the corners. The brake ducts, I've just opened those out at the rear because it does get a little bit rear. There is a little bit of slide at the rear, but obviously a car that oversteers is generally faster than a car that understeers. So just to try and reduce the tyre temperatures, I've opened up the rear brake ducts. So here we are then at Monza, and as you can see, a lot of cars just flying down the inside. For some reason, just before the start of the race, I just went into the main menus just to make some adjustments and was kicked back to the pit lane. So starting from the pit lane then once all the cars have gone flying past. I'm just starting to gradually catch up with some of the other drivers here. Now obviously just trying to get a good exit through the chicane out onto this long back straight, so just kind of timing my run to get out onto the straight there, just checking where he is, using that sort of radar in the middle of the screen there, just making sure no contact best I can. I do try and stick to a clean driving regime whenever I'm racing really. So coming up against some more traffic then, just a little bit further down the road, and again just trying to get a good exit off this corner. Use all the circuit, you can see left half the circuit really. You really want to use all the circuit, coming out of the corners, coming into the corners, take a long wide line. Again we've got Norseman here, a very well respected driver on the circuit, but a control pad user as well, so doing really well. It's always good to see other drivers, and we'll certainly come across other drivers that are using a controller. Again you can see Gusta here, the main protagonist in this race really. Had a cracking battle that will ensue for the next few minutes with Gusta, but again just doesn't seem to use all the exit there, coming through that last, I think it's one of the Ascaris, or I forget the name of all these corners, I really do. Or maybe this is Ascari, the very last corner, I can't remember, but obviously he's making me guess really as to where he's positioning the car really coming into this last corner, but obviously I'm just trying to stick to my racing line, get a toe down this long back straight, or the start finish straight. And the slipstream effects in the Assetto Corsa Competizione are definitely there, but they are very subtle. You really do need to get within a few car lengths to start getting the real benefits from a toe. So trying to brake a little bit later. I thought he was going to leave me room there, but it just kind of started to close the door on me a little bit, so I decided against it. Die another day kind of thing. I'd rather not take too much damage. Tyre pressure's working a little bit better, but the setup that I did share, I think I'm running maybe 3 or 4 on the rear wing in the McLaren with this particular setup. I have made some subtle changes to the setup that's at the start of this video, just to get more top speed and really make use of the overtaking chances really, which do tend to come down the long straights at Monza. But if you're running too much rear wing, you're just not going to make the most of that, and you can see the Ferrari here is just always pulling away from me on the straights. Obviously I'm getting the toe, but even when I come alongside him and I've not got the effects of the toe, I am just losing out on straight line speed. Obviously I'm able to get a better run out with the corners due to that increased rear grip, I guess. But obviously you can see I'm just starting to catch him, and it's near the end of the straight really. I really want to be catching him much earlier in the straight, forcing me to take the long way around here. There is quite a bit of grip out on the external edges of the circuit, but obviously being able to take a tighter line is always going to be the shorter distance, and again I'm behind again as we come out along the start finish straight. As you can see again, just trying to get that toe into turn 1, but it's just as soon as I come alongside him and I'm not getting the effects of the toe, I'm just losing out. He goes a little bit deep, and I do try to get the switch back, but he is pretty quick through that corner. So coming down to probably this is probably second to last lap, so I've got a few more laps to try and get past this guy Gusta Voda Hornet. Some of these names are pretty cracking. Would be interested to see as well what the 217 is, whether that's, because obviously it's not the number of the car, so I'm just interested if anyone knows what the numbering system is. 217, I really don't know what that's all about. Whether it's, I don't think it's going to be a combined score, because I'd imagine he'd be well into the 500s looking at my own stats on the right hand side there. I would be interested to know if anyone else is also taking part in the championship events in the multiplayer, whether the point system is actually working. I've only ever really done one event there, and obviously you could see that was when the score system wasn't working, so that's still at 0 for me. But again, I'm in this position where we're just trying to get this toe again down into the it's not even Rascas, I can't even remember the name. It's not Rivage. No, the name of these corners is really escaping me. But again, just down to the final fuel as well. One last lap with the fuel, so it is very tightly packed.
Car on the right.
So again, just not able to get the car slowed down, get that switch back and get an exit out here, but I still think he would beat me to the next chicane anyway. He's obviously running less rear wing, and I know the Ferrari is pretty good anyway, especially around Monza. But yeah, since doing this video, the setup does run like one click of rear wing. There's literally no rear wing on this setup now, just so that we can make the most of these long straights. I'm sure these are the Lesmos 1 and 2, but see if he gets another exit off here. He's using a little bit more of the circuit there, but definitely use more of that on the exit. Last chance really.
Car on the left.
And again, you see I just pull alongside and I'm just going nowhere. I cannot overtake in a straight line. I was hoping he'd get an even worse exit off here because he was on the inside line, but manages to make it stick. A few little glitches from the online cameras, but still able to have some really good close racing.
Car on the right.
Try and carry more and more speed, but again he's just too quick on the inside there. But obviously looking at the lap times, they're not particularly great, but obviously you're battling, so you're never going to be hitting perfect lap times. But yeah, that's Monza in the McLaren. A good race at the end of the night. So that's Monza. So we'll just go to the Nürburgring. Again, you can see a 155.6 at the Nürburgring in the McLaren. So again, it's a very tough lap to get this 155.6. You really need to run a number of laps here, look at how you're coming off the corners, and just trying to carry as much speed as you can through a lot of the slower sections of the circuit. The last section I'd definitely recommend through the chicane coming down to second. It doesn't particularly handle the curbs great. The rear end is also a little bit slidey as you come off the last corner. But the rest of the lap feels pretty solid to me. So I'll just go through it slowly there. Pause it where you need to. So here we are then at the Nürburgring, 20 seconds to go. And I'm not sure if this was one where I literally just joined in. Obviously you can see I'm fairly back on the grid. I don't think I've even had chance to
Green light. Go.
Set a qualifying position in this race, so coming into this a little bit unprepared really, and as you'll see during the race, tyre pressures are a long way off, which is really hindering my lap. Not even sure if those front discs should be closed out a little bit more, or whether they're just getting a little bit too hot on the brake, and I'll have a look at that as we continue into this race. But always very tentative through the first couple of corners, especially coming into a lobby where I don't particularly know anybody that's racing, so I don't know how clean they're going to be.
Clear on the right.
Just the level of drivers in the lobby itself. So just being really tentative for these first couple of laps, I think. Obviously surrounded by Ferraris at the moment. Just managing to miss that guy. Never really saw the spin, but definitely in a better position. So just looking ahead here, lots of look ahead. Just seeing the guy run wide. It's kind of out of shape. Didn't get the best run off that corner, and it doesn't really use the curves well. You can see the Ferrari just in front there, using a lot of the curb on the entrance to the corner there, but trying to mount the curb in the McLaren doesn't suit it at all. So I'm just going to take a tight line here and avoid this Porsche. He's obviously running his own race. Maybe he's got a little bit of damage, I don't know. But you can see just up ahead there, the BMW getting very sideways.
Yellow flag ahead.
Just avoiding that little collision there. I tend not to try and touch any of these curbs through the last chicane. Some cars really handle this inside curb well, and you can kind of clip the inside curb, but I tend not to try and touch any of the curbs. Always a little bit slidey coming out of this last corner. And just a little link there, check out the Facebook page. Always lots of events happening in the group itself. The link's always in the description, along with a lot of other links in the description, so just spend a bit of time, click on the video description and have a look through a lot of the links there, especially to do with the car setups and stuff like that from Driver 61, Chris Haye, amongst a number of other websites. There's also a link in the description for Peter Michael's event that he's running in December if you want to make any donations through the Just Giving charity.
Clear on the left.
Please do so. But coming back to the racing, back on the rear end of another McLaren, finally managed to get past the Ferrari there, and should have really cut to the inside there. It's almost like the Batmobile, the styling he's got here on this McLaren.
Yellow flag ahead. Be careful.
But hopefully I'll get him down the start finish straight. Picking up that toe.
Well done, mate. The fastest step so far.
But obviously you can, just looking at the tyre temperatures, you can see the rear tyres getting very hot
Clear on the left.
and very much out of
Car on the right.
the better sort of PSI range of 27.5 to 27.8, running very hard on the tyres, which certainly does start to make the rear end of the car slide a lot more. Certainly not going to be able to hit 155s with tyre pressures so high. The level of grip just starts to come off, but this is a fantastic battle I have with these two drivers. Simon Templar, I'm sure he used to be
Clear on the left.
Simon Templar was I forget the name of the character from a TV series. Yeah, totally gone. But, great name. But both of these guys, some really good racing, very clean racing. So again, always looking for that toe. The Porsche does seem to be a lot slower in a straight line than most cars. Always seem to be able to be quicker than the Porsche in a straight line.
Car on the left. Clear on the left.
But diving all the way down the inside, left a huge
Car on the left.
gap there.
3 wide.
But then we've got this 3 wide exit,
Yellow
and
flag in sector
I'd
3.
rather not go
All
3
clear.
into this corner,
Clear on the
but
left.
I'm not sure how tidy that would have been. But the Porsche just managing to stay ahead. I do think the Lexus is a really good car as well, a very strong car coming off the corners. It seems to have a heck of a lot of torque. I think the car that I'm going to do a few setups with, almost sideways the Porsche coming out the corner
Car on the
there.
right. Clear on the right.
He just gets a little bit of a better run, I think, trying to get down the inside, but sticks to the outside, the Lexus. Oh, the Lexus sticks to the inside. I thought the Porsche would have got a better run. Again, it's a great battle ahead, even just watching the guys tussle. I'm kind of hoping that one of them's going to take the other one out. Always looking for that gap. Porsche again running very wide. just
Car on the right. Clear
just
on the
takes
right.
me by surprise hitting the brake so early there.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
Really just running as far wide as I could there, trying to get the cut back. It does just start to close the door there. I think I would have got him down the straight if he'd not closed the door. But ever always looking at that rear view mirror as well, leaving that inside line. The Lexus wasn't hesitating to get through there, and I could see him sort of eyeing it up. Really should have closed the door. But some great racing, really enjoyed this battle. Obviously again looking at the lap times are terrible, but obviously when you're battling, no one's taking the ideal lines, we're all trying to fight for position. The Porsche just running a little bit too wide there.
We are halfway through.
Lexus almost drifting through the corner. So trying to go the long way around here, trying to get this cut back. So I'm building up for the exit on this corner really, hoping I get a good exit down here. But the Porsche and the Lexus do have really good traction coming off a lot of the corners, but really not able to carry the speed. Now I'm starting to look at the rear view for this other Porsche that seems to be coming into the mix, because we're taking a lot of time out of our laps fighting. So just get a better line there. Maybe there's more grip on that inside line. I've never really explored it as much. So you see here the Lexus running up onto the curve. That really doesn't work for the McLaren. It does make the corner a little bit wider, but I have seen the car bottom out through that section as well. So I do tend to avoid that curve. The inside curve there is not an issue, but this is a corner that really does catch a lot of people out, and the more speed you can carry through this corner comes all the way out onto this long back straight. It really is a corner that you should master. Again, just sort of giving him a look down the inside line, try and make him worry a little bit, but doesn't seem phased. So see if I can get a good toe down this long start finish straight, but he's mighty in a straight line. Definitely no gains at all in the slipstream with the Lexus. So maybe he's suffering through the corners. You see him get sideways quite a lot. Almost tagging in there. Almost the Porsche cutting back up the inside. Obviously he's managed to overtake Simon Templar. So he is pretty good, this guy in the Porsche. He tries to go around the outside, but there's no grip on the outside of that corner at all. So trying to get myself composed again and get back up alongside the guy in the Lexus. Yeah, just really suffering with the tyre pressures really. Might even be worthwhile opening the rear brake ducts on this setup just to try and cool those tyres. But I'll have probably made subtle changes to the setup. Fingers crossed the one that's at the start of the video. I've maybe opened the rear brake ducts to 2 now, just to try and cool those tyres. But the tyre temperatures pressures won't be helping the temperatures either, because the rear tyres will be sliding around a bit more than they should because of the overpressure. They're probably getting a little bit hotter than usual just through friction, because they're not actually getting the grip that they need. Especially that last corner does tend to be a little bit more sideways. Just looking at the brake balance there at 57.6. So if you do find that the car is oversteering on corner entry to that last corner, or even this second corner here, sometimes get a little bit of oversteer on corner entry here. Usually you're under braking, you could always adjust the brake pressure or the brake bias to maybe 58. And I tend to always drop to TC1 there coming off the corner just to get better traction. You will see me flicking from TC6 to TC1 off some of these corner exits. Again here, get a much better run on the inside line. Do start to wonder whether it's better cutting to the inside line there, whether there is more grip. Always trying to roll, carrying as much speed round that corner as you can. Just keeping the throttle kind of half open. And never can carry flat out through there. I think the early change up to fourth gear is definitely useful, but you could probably stay in high end third. Again, you can see him here very sideways, so he's obviously using very little rear wing. Makes him very much out of shape.
Clear on the left.
So I think I cover off the inside line here because I know he's quick on the inside. He doesn't attempt it this time. I think he knows I'm running a little bit quicker. So I think we're going to get a full lap here at speed. A little mistake on the inside there, just picking up the inside curb. So just changing the graphic on the left hand side there, just flicking through to see what sort of lap times setting. You see he just out brakes himself there on the left, loses that position to the Porsche. And I think the guy in first is a long way ahead for me to catch. I don't think I ever catch him. I think this is just the last lap, but you can see him already up nearly a full half a second, over half a second now. Obviously now I've cleared the traffic. So third into here, trying to carry third through there as well. 2 shifts down, so I treat this as 2 bends coming off the corner there. Down into second, drop into TC1 usually on the exit. Braking just at the top end of fourth gear really here. Down to second, down to first. Just keeping the car rolling, using the curb on the exit. Don't pick up this inside curb on the right hand side. Trying to get that early change to fourth and then carrying the speed through. Braking just as we sort of hit this 100-yard board. Cutting the inside curb, flat on the power. Trying to get a nice wide line. Didn't actually pick up the inside as best I could really on the exit there, but still carrying a lot more speed down onto this back straight. Nearly a full second in hand. But usually we'd be hitting 155, I think it's 155.6 with this setup. So and then the worst feeling in the world. So as you can see, flying through these setups, but obviously we'll be looking at a little bit of footage as we go. Barcelona, as you can see here, 145.7. These are always I wouldn't say the most accurate numbers, but sometimes I don't think it records the best lap sometimes. I don't know why. So as much as it says a 46.1 there, we have been into the 45s. I'll just keep using the same setup. I don't think I've particularly changed anything on there coming back to the race. Sometimes I'll make a small adjustment and come back to it. You might want to try 5 and 4 to see how it feels. But I think the brake balance is fine the way it is. So just coming into the start of the race here at Catalonia. Obviously you can see I'm using the brake pedal to try and warm the tyres, getting as much heat into those brake ducts as we can, and obviously it'll dissipate through the tyre, give us a much better tyre pressure earlier into the race. So you can see very different tyre pressures as well.
Clear on the right.
Obviously throughout the race and the varying different selection of corners, the temperature starts to even out to 27.5, 27.8 probably, but initial starting temperatures very different. So racing here with Yoda, another very respectful driver on the scene. Really enjoying some races over the last couple of evenings. Definitely meeting some a better level of drivers. Usually the busiest lobby of the night. But I think we've run a few races here on the evening itself. See, I'm not sure if this was a Porsche from the previous race. I don't think so. We just get a little bit of a touch at the rear wing and end up using the escape road. Always being mindful really, rejoining the circuit, just looking at that rear view mirror and coming out on an area of the circuit that you probably wouldn't usually see traffic unless they're all overtaking. So I've just got Cowboy Bebop in front, and I think he is on the controller, usually pretty quick. But still, like I said, good to see other drivers that don't have the benefit of using a wheel or haven't obviously got the funds to outlay on buying wheel equipment, still enjoying the game using the controller, still a good level of racing. But I always think, having tried the controller, you just can't, you just haven't got that same level of
Car on the left.
it's almost like the stability turning and braking at the same time. I never felt like I'd got the dexterity in my fingers to do both as smoothly as you can do it with a pedal and a wheel. Obviously you can see the car there taken to the inside. Not sure if that's Yoda actually. This took a little bit of an off on the inside. So 2 cars wide coming into this last corner. Oh, this left-hander.
Car on the right.
And yeah, it's Yoda on the inside there. He's not giving up the line, so just trying to be as gentlemanly as I can. But I think looking back at some of my footage, I am sometimes a little bit kinder than I probably should be. I guess we all don't have that Verstappen sort of mentality when it comes to racing. Sort of all or nothing to win. I think I'm probably more of a Jensen Button. I do think Hamilton's sort of mellowed in his age as well. He's a little bit more kind about how he goes about attacking the circuit. But I think to be ruthless, or to win, sometimes you've got to be a little bit more ruthless. But I think I would rather win with clean driving. Obviously picking up that little warning there, running a little bit too wide, and then just getting a little bit too aggressive on the curb on the inside there. But again, these Porsches just seem to be a little bit slow in a straight line. So really on the back of Yoda coming out of the last corner. Should be able to pick him up here. Using much more of that curb on the exit. Obviously you're just scrubbing a lot less speed, making the corner wider. Well, a long way back, even without the toe. I've just sort of positioned my car a little bit early, picking up that inside curve, and then we're back up again, trying to get past Cowboy here.
We are halfway through, not over yet.
So still quite a bit of the race. I think it's only a short 12-minute race, this one. Making the corner wider again. So just looking, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of an incident further down the line on this race, and just looking at my braking point for that last corner into the hairpin. And I don't think I misjudged my braking point. I think the guy that I do ended up rear-ending just brakes a little bit out of sequence. And it just catch me out. So braking at the 100-yard board there, just cutting down the inside. Like I said, I do think braking with a pedal is much easier in a Assetto Corsa Competizione. I think you are at a distinct advantage using a controller, braking and turning at the same time. So we managed to clear not Yoda, the Cowboy, just a little bit further, just skipping a little bit further down. See, we've got pink sector time at the top there, pink lap time. So I do like this feature where you can see who's actually set the fastest lap as well. At the end of the race it's highlighted in pink, but you also know whether you are the fastest driver on the circuit with that graphic. So trying to come down the inside, get the switch back, but he just manages to cover off that outside line. Again, I thought I might be able to have a little bit of a gap down the inside there, but that inside curb isn't very, I wouldn't say compliant. Just doesn't offer a great deal of grip. So again, hoping to get a good run off this corner. We've already got a nice little toe. Should be done and dusted down this start-finish straight. Get a good toe here.
Car on the right.
So all the way around the outside.
Clear on the right.
Fingers crossed I can carry through, but it does brake very late. Looking at my rear view mirror. Again, trying to get a better exit.
Car on the left.
I thought he was going to leave that wider, so I should have just backed off a little bit more there. Obviously not wanting to make contact, and just a little flash of the lights just to let him know. Apologies for that. But it's that feeling when you kind of know you are a bit quicker and you just get impatient wanting to get past. You can see first place just a few cars ahead really, and there's not a lot of distance between us. Obviously Yoda's got it up into second place again. So there's a lot of guys swapping and changing positions. Really good race.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
So he's going to stay for the inside. I'll try and get the little switch back, try and dummy into the corner, but just carried too much momentum, not able to get the car slowed down. So I left a lot more room at the inside there, but again that inside curb's just not compliant at all. I'm running a little bit wide. And I've got the car at the rear I'm kind of starting to look at as well. Cowboy back on the hunt for another place. So a long way off down to this final lap. Definitely not going to get the toe into turn 1. So always using as much of that left hand green section as you can. Certainly wouldn't use as much curb on the inside there, just unsettles the car really. So he's positioning the car really well, just blocking me accelerating really. So I think this is the one really where I'm literally on the brake pedal, but he's very early on the brake pedal there for me. But again, I'd rather get the clean pass, so apologies for that. Catalunya, and we just end up finishing there very quickly through these setups. So last but not least, let's go to Silverstone. And I definitely think we're into the 159s with this setup. I think a 159.6 was probably my fastest lap. As you can see, it wasn't recorded. Oh, 159.6, there we go. I knew I'd got somewhere into the 159s, but again, it's a very tough lap. I don't think I'd change the brake balance. I don't feel like it's a perfect setup. There are areas where I think it probably could be better. Possibly could lower out the bump stop range at the rear. Probably go down to 30. And again, we're losing out a lot on straight line speed at the minute, but it's still into the 159s, so see how you go with it. So let's change cars and go into the Bentley. Now, I was looking at the Bentley from quite a while ago, these setups. So Monza. Another one at Monza. 148.8. I don't think that's realistic. I think that's probably from the last version of the game. I think I was still into the 149s with this setup. So 122. Obviously we've got fast conditions there, so obviously in optimum conditions we're going to see a faster lap than the 150.2. But again, a lot of the guys are still in the 149s to be competitive. So just flying through these setups. Again, you can see we're running very little rear wing. So joining back here at Monza once again, but we're here in the Bentley this time. So skipped a little bit further along into this race, just through lap 1, and just coming across some traffic down that long back straight. Not particularly sure how much time I've spent in the Bentley here as to how good this setup actually is, but I think on the night I was just running a number of laps or a number of races just back to back, making adjustments with the setup in each session, going out doing the qualifying sessions and then running the race again. Probably the best way to do a car setup if you're doing it online. You're sort of testing it in the race, seeing how well it's performing, and then coming back doing maybe a 10 or 15 minute qualifying session again, making a few adjustments, and then you're kind of learning where the car needs to be better actually in a race. Obviously setting a car up to run a fast lap isn't always the way you would set it up to do a race. Obviously you can see just trying to cut down the inside this BMW, trying to leave as much room as I can for him, moving across, but the Porsche behind has definitely got a good run, but as long as I keep alongside, he's sort of tucked in then behind the BMW, and he's got to go 3 wide really to make his way around the outside. So choosing to back off a little bit, and very hard going through there, which really forces me onto the curb. So down there, the penultimate, yeah, it would be the penultimate straight. I guess we've got another one after this. So is it the carousel maybe? We're back here again at Monza, and I'm still none the wiser. Just filming this video back to back really.
Yellow flag ahead, watch out in front.
So I'm not really paying attention to the lap times I'm setting here, because obviously you're fighting in traffic. They're not really representative of the lap. I think it was a 149 into the 149s. Not sure what temperature we're running, but obviously you can see within if you're not in traffic, I'm already a second up, 2 seconds up at this stage. So back on the rear end of this battle. So again, 2 BMWs fighting it out up ahead. And that horrible feeling when you know you're not going to close the gap, or you're closing the gap too quickly. Apologies there, and he also gives a bit of a flash.
Fastest lap of the race, great job man.
So back into the race. Trying to get back up there again.
Car on the left.
Just a normal overtake
Clear on the
really into
left.
turn 1. A lot of overtaking happens at Monza into turn 1, whether you've got that confidence on the brake pedal.
Yellow flag in
So
sector
I think
3.
I have actually changed to have driver names above the cars now, as much as it sort of takes away some of that realism.
Car on the right. Clear on the right.
A nice little pass there, I think, onto the inside. I think he was definitely watching his mirrors, knowing how quickly I was coming up. He certainly left the door wide open. And I think that was as far as I got. The other driver ahead was setting some really good lap times. 155.9. And I don't think I got a really good push lap during the video. .156.2. Obviously it said 155.9, so I've not obviously saved it since doing that. I do generally like to name my setups by the lap time I've been able to achieve. I don't know if this setup needs changes anywhere, so I'm not sure how much time I've spent in the car to get this setup together, but there you go.
Green light. Go, go, go.
So starting out the race, so obviously qualified second or first place. Not a particularly great start off the line, obviously losing that position,
Car on the left.
but I think that's as much a battle to win this race as I had.
Clear on the left.
So I think we just skip forward in this race, and I'm just going to show you a flying lap. So braking at the 100-yard board like in most cars down to turn 1, making the track as wide as we can. Trying to get the power down off the exit there, always slippy and slidey through this turn 2, trying to hug the inside line, let the car run wide. Maybe sometimes use some of that curb, braking at the grass on the right hand side, a tight line through the next turn, trying to carry as much speed out onto this section. I don't know if that's the Mercedes grandstand. Braking just after the cones, trying to keep in third gear, obviously dropping down to second there, but I always try and keep this corner like 2 corners really. It feels like you brake into the first portion and then it just tightens up again. So just before the curb starts there, down to first gear, using all this curb on the exit. I'm not sure if I mount the curb here in the... Yeah, so not mounting the curb. I think it would mount the curb there as well, the Bentley. It does handle the curbs quite nicely. Again, braking at the 100-yard board, trying to pick up this inside curb, straighten the car out. A nice wide line into this corner, maybe carrying more speed through there. Not sure if this car handles the curbs better than the McLaren through this final section. So obviously getting into the 155s. Nice exit off the last corner. Probably could have been better, but still over the line of the 155.9.
Well done, mate. Purple lap.
And as you can see there, looking at the lap times, a very consistent low 156s. So I'll just add this footage as we leave the video. Obviously there's a lot of information in this video, a lot to look back on with all the videos that we've watched, all the racing that you've watched as well. I really do enjoy racing online, and I'm not sure whether this would be a better way to show the setups in future. It puts a lot less pressure on me just trying to set a really fast lap during the video, and you can actually enjoy some of the racing that I take part in. I met a number of people over the last couple of evenings, made a lot of new friends as well, so definitely keep coming back to Assetto Corsa as it gets updated. a lot of people saying, is the game ready to come back to? But I think with the addition of the new 4 circuits coming very soon, I think we'll be seeing a lot more drivers in the lobbies over the coming months. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I hope that's been useful to a lot of you guys. If you have enjoyed the content, please do like and subscribe. Share the video, mention it to friends, and smash that like button. Smash the bell icon as well, so you know when I've got other videos coming out. Hopefully I'll be jumping in some different cars, I think, over the next week or so. Maybe looking at the Lexus and maybe getting back in the BMW. I'm not sure. Maybe even the Honda. Someone else was mentioning some setups in the Honda NSX, which is a fantastic car to drive as well. It really does suit my driving style. But until next time, thanks for watching, and ciao for now.